asked my patrons to pick a genre that they wanted me to read for a week, and they are pushing me out of my comfort zone. I did give them this option, but I will be trying to read romance books for the next week. I was gonna say not my favorite genre, not a genre I ever read actually. I think maybe we will discuss a little bit as we go throughout this video why I don't necessarily read the genre, so I won't hash that all out right now. Also, I don't know if it's showing up, but I was drinking Orange Crush, so my tongue is all orange. In case you're wondering if I'm dying. So I mostly went to the library because I don't have romance books, other than my daughter had one, 100 Days of Sunlight. These are all options for my week, and I might go, and I requested a couple of other ones that didn't come in yet, so I may be able to go grab some of those as well. I'll show you what I have here and we'll go from there. I've got the Blonde Identity by Ali Carter. I normally like her writing. This one's a rom-com and very different than her other ones, I think, so that's an option. Oh yeah, 100 Days of Sunlight is YA. This is adult. Then I actually don't even know what this is. Girl's Guide to the Outback. I think this one is maybe Christian romance. Tacos for Two. Possibly also a Christian romance. Authentically Izzy. I've read actually one book by Pepper Basham, and that one was more historical, but then she's got this series, and I think this is told in letters. Yeah, letters and maybe emails and texts and stuff like that. I do like that format. And then I think this is kind of a duology. I think these kind of go together. I think All That Really Matters, and then All That It Takes by Nicole Deese. I don't even know what her last name is. If I read these, I'll figure out which one actually comes first. So I thought I would try to hit up a variety of different kinds of books in this video. I think I'm going to start with 100 Days of Sunlight because this is a YA romance, and so that's different. I think all the other ones are adult. That's different, and so I thought I would try a different age bracket. I don't really want to know anything going in, but Abby Emmons has a YouTube channel where she talks a lot about writing, and not necessarily her own writing journey, but a lot of like writing tips, which is why my daughter bought this book, because she is a writer herself and she watches a lot of Abby Emmons videos. This will be the one I start with. YA romance. I'm hoping it's not like, am I hoping it's not too cringy, or am I hoping it's cringy, so cringy that it's funny? Like, I don't know, you guys. Romance, like I said, not my genre, but I'm gonna be reading that over the next few days, so we'll see. I will definitely share some thoughts as I go. 100 Days of Sunlight also seems like a good one for summer, so good pick to start with. Okay, so I read the first 2 chapters, which is a whopping 22 pages. We met Tessa in the first chapter. She was in a car accident 21 days ago with her grandmother that she lives with and went blind, lost her sight. The doctors say it should come back in the next 100 days, 12 to 14 weeks, which is about 100 days, I think, 98 days. I'm assuming that's kind of like where the title of the book comes in. And then so she's 16. In the second chapter, we meet Weston, who his father owns a newspaper, and Tessa's grandfather had put an ad in the newspaper looking for someone to be a typist to transcribe for Tessa, because she's a blogger and a poet. And then Tessa they tell Tessa that they've put this ad in the paper. She doesn't want them to do it. So the grandfather calls the newspaper to pull the ad. Weston is in his father's office when this happens. His father owns the paper. Don't know if I said that. And Weston's a bit of a charmer. He ends up getting the information for Tessa's grandparents, and then easily finds their house online. Sounds very stalkerish. And he shows up and sweet talks the grandmother into letting him talk to Tessa, which is like where we're about to be right now. The thing is, here's the like catch. Weston is supposed to be, you know, like I think he's got a bit of a sense of humor. He's a little bit cocky. It has that kind of side to him. But 3 years ago, something happened and he lost his legs. So now he has, like, I think it's both legs are prosthetics. And so this is why the grandmother is going to let him talk to Tessa. Now, I think one of my biggest things with romance books is the predictability. And I know they're supposed to be predictable, but like 2 chapters in, and I probably could have seen this coming even earlier, I already know who's going to end up together. And as someone that grew up loving like mystery suspense books, a lot of the reason that I would read a book, read to the end, get to the ending, is to find out what happens. And with romance, I feel like you know it's the general idea of what's going to happen very, very early on, and that's just not how my brain, why I generally choose to read. But my daughter has said this book gets funny. She's already asked me multiple times how it's going. So I'm gonna keep reading. Tessa has always been homeschooled. I like that as a parent of homeschooled children. There is, in the first chapter, there is one use of the Lord's name in vain. Loud truck. Not surprising for a YA book. Always disappointed though at the same time. Yeah, so I will keep reading. I'm hoping, like, since you know it's gonna be predictable, I'm hoping the humor and stuff, I'm looking for some like witty banter. I've been able to get that from a few of like the romance or like more romance heavy books that I've read before. That helps things out a lot, so hopefully we can get some of that. But I do like the poet aspect and blogger aspect. I can relate to Tessa in that regard. Oh, and I guess one thing is Weston has asked the grandmother not to tell Tessa about his legs. So she is blind and he has no legs, and he's not gonna let her know that. It's interesting little twist, I'll say that. Now I'll keep going.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. You and I, we got it.
Okay, no one is gonna be more surprised than me that I finished this book in less than 24 hours and enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna give it like 4.5 stars, which on Goodreads, I'm not sure if I'm gonna round that to 4 or 5 yet. 100 Days of Sunlight. I was not expecting the depth of this book with the male character having lost his legs. We go into the story of how he lost them, and there are parts where like I'm tearing up because it's emotional. He's 13 years old when he loses them, and like the reason behind it is all shared and everything. And then we keep kind of flashing back and forth a little bit from like present day with him getting to know Tessa, and then the past where he's like going through the process of losing them and a little bit after. So I guess Reika did warn me. She likes books with depth, and this book had way more depth than I was expecting from a romance book. I had a couple things I tagged that I thought I was going to share. Let's see. Oh, so when Weston asks Tessa's grandparents to not tell Tessa that he is missing his legs, he says it'll only make things worse if she knows, Besides, no one has ever seen the light by being told there are darker places out there. I kind of like that in some ways. Like, yes, in some ways I think it's really good when you're struggling to realize like someone out there is always struggling more than you, but there are times when that's not very helpful. I liked the poeticness of that. Also, this book is really short because there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of like, Abby Emmons is obviously just a fan of short paragraphs. Like sometimes it's just, you know, like 3 words and she'll give them each their own paragraph. So that makes things go a little quicker. Okay, there was one part where I laughed out loud. So while Tessa doesn't have her sight, Weston's doing stuff with her, they slowly become friends. He asks her what her favorite movie is, and it's The Sound of Music, and so they decide to watch it together, and he's gonna describe the movie to her, which would be so interesting to hear someone describe a movie that you have watched so many times. You know what's happening even if you can't see it. And this just cracks me up because Jared has sisters and they love The Sound of Music, and he's seen this movie so many times, and I could just imagine him describing it this way. So, she's running up a hill. It looks like the Swiss Alps, and I think she's going to start singing in a second. It's Austria, I correct. And yes, this is a musical. Oh no. I like that. I think as far as a romance goes, I feel like I can probably relate a little bit more to a book like this. We'll see if I change my tune as I read a couple more. But Jared and I started dating when we were 16, tail end of 16, beginning of 17, right before we turned 17. So I can relate to characters that fall in love, you know, a romance story from the teenager's perspective. Will I like an adult one? We'll see. I have 2 books that I've picked out from my stack that I'm the most interested in, and I really don't know which one I'm going to read. So we've got The Blonde Identity. This is a rom-com, mainstream, secular, not 100% sure if it's going to cross lines. I don't want it to. But I like Allie Carter, and I could see her writing being really funny. This is about it's the middle of the night in the middle of Paris, and a woman just woke up with no memory. She only knows 3 things for certain. 1, she has a splitting headache. 2, the hottest guy she has, probably, ever seen is standing over her telling her to run. And, oh yeah, 3, people keep trying to kill her. She doesn't know who or why, but when she sees footage of herself fighting it off a dozen men, there's only one explanation. Obviously, she's a spy. Except, according to Mr. Hot Guy, she's not. She's the spy's identical twin sister. I like the setup of that. And it is actually pretty short. My other option is Authentically, Izzy by Pepper Basham, because this one is told in like letters and emails and texts or something like that. Dear reader, my name is Isabel Louisa Edgewood, Izzy for short. I live by blue tinted mountains where I find contentment in fresh air and books. Like, I can relate to this girl. Oh, and coffee and tea, of course. Okay, less very relatable. And occasionally in being accosted by the love of my family. You'll understand my verb choice in the phrase later. I dream of opening my own bookstore, but my life, particularly my romantic history, has not been the stuff of fairy tales, which is probably why my pregnant, misled, matchmaking cousin, who really is more like my sister, signed me up for an online dating community. Oh, I'm kind of torn. I wish you guys could give me like immediate response here. Why can't you guys just know what I'm thinking and tell me which book to read? What I generally tend to do in these kind of situations is do a random number generator so I don't have to make a decision, because decision fatigue is a real thing. We're gonna put this one as number 1. We're gonna put this one as number 2. I don't have my phone. I'll grab my computer, I guess. I'm assuming the tractor rumbling is still coming through. They are working on the road by us, and there's a roller, and that really makes a lot of noise. Okay, numbers 1 to 2. Should I show you so you know I'm not cheating? Can you see that? I don't know, but I'm not gonna cheat. 2, which was Authentically Izzy. If things go according to plan, I'll probably pick up this one next, or I might completely change my mind. The only problem with this one is it's quite a bit longer. It's 400 pages, and the font is smaller than the other book I was reading. I am going to give this one a try. So this one is Christian fiction, so it should be at least clean. Curious to know how much faith is going to come through this. A lot of Christian fiction is just clean fiction these days. and Thomas Nelson, their publishing is kind of like that. But I know Pepper Basham is a Christian, so hopefully we'll have some faith elements in here as well. Next up. So there's actually a few things I'm liking about the book so far. There is a map at the beginning, and it looks like we are going to be set, okay, let's focus, in this cute little island, and I think they're trying to get tourists or people to come live here, I think is what's going on. Yes, so I'm assuming this is like some kind of news report for the area. Not really sure yet. But we start out right at the beginning with an email to Izzy from her cousin saying she started her profile on this dating site. And I feel like in this instance I would probably be the person that would be setting this up. I really enjoy the fact that she set the profile photo as Minnie Mouse, and unless you want the entire dating world of Heart to Heart to think you're a Disney princess, a loving high school student, you better hop online and fix it. And Izzy is a librarian, and so I think there's going to be a lot of bookish references in here. So yeah, her cousin referred to her as the reclusive librarian, and so I mean, I think I'm gonna like Izzy and Josephine, so we'll see where this goes. I mean, this is like the first couple pages. Technically page 8, but I think it started earlier than that, so it's actually a really good start.
Full stop. Can't believe I live in your thoughts. I think about you all the time, morning, evening, and midnight. Such a wonderful delight. Everything that I own, yeah, I'd give it all up now just to be with you somehow. Unexpected love was found. You're the rose in a garden, and it shows if I'm honest. You're the leaves in mid-August, I've come out here to say that I love you. Ooh, ooh, you, ooh, ooh. So slow, hold you in my arms, won't let go. The world around could pass us by.
At this point, I'm wondering what the odds are that I'm like going to really enjoy all the books in this video. I'm really enjoying the bookish vibes of this. Our main character loves Lord of the Rings. It starts out with a lot of like Lord of the Rings references between the movie and the books. And my husband and 13-year-old daughter love the movies, the books. They've read them multiple times. We watch them on a regular basis. So I can understand a lot of the references. The main character, she says there's not really a job description for book pusher, and even if there was, it sounds like a profession where one might get arrested. I feel like I can relate to that. I feel like that's what my booktube channel is. I am a paid book pusher at this point, where I make a teeny little bit of money and push books on people. So really enjoying all the bookish references. I ran out of like regular tabs, so now I'm using like mini sticky notes, which seem a little huge, but I thought I would share some of the parts that I'm enjoying. So Izzy gets put on this online dating site by her cousin, and she gets a few different responses from a few different people. It's kind of hilarious, but pretty quickly, like, there's someone that jumps out as someone that might be a good match, we'll say. And then this guy, he messages her, and this feels like a scene out of You've Got Mail. Like, so I'm saying I don't like romance books. I don't really ever read them. but You've Got Mail is a rom-com and one of my favorite movies ever. And he says, the Lord of the Rings movie series, oh wait, no, this is from Izzy to her cousin. She's sending her a copy of it. She says, I am certain you can find almost any answer for life within the wonders of this story. Should I stay home tonight and read a book? All's well that ends better. If Beans and Things only has one chocolate croissant left and you're third in line, there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and that's worth fighting for. Should I read one more chapter even though it's past midnight? A day may come when the courage of men fails, but it is not this day. Yeah, there's a bunch of quotes about that. I've just been like tabbing all those sorts of different things. Some of them are quotes from authors that I like that I'm not the kind of person that remembers quotes. Jared and Reka both are, so like they'll quote things, but I can love a book and not be able to quote anything by it even if I reread it. And so a bunch of these are quotes that I want to write down. One by Louisa May Alcott, one by Anne Frank. I loved this one. This is the Anne Frank one. The best remedy for those who are afraid, lonely, or unhappy is to go outside, somewhere where they can be quite alone with the heavens, nature, and God. Because only then does one feel that all is as it should be, and that God wishes to see people happy amidst the simple beauty of nature. Love that, love that. Yeah, so I'm enjoying the banter, especially between Izzy, and she's emailing two of her cousins and like telling them of what's kind of going on with the online dating app, and like the one guy in particular. Izzy's parents died when she was 12, and then she went to live with these cousins, the one that set her up, and then she's got two siblings. So she's emailing these two siblings, and then her cousin that set her up, she's also emailing her. So I am I'm on page 139. Not quite halfway, but enjoying it. Also, like the main male character, he's the one that lives on this island. This is between Scotland and Scandinavia, and I'm assuming it's made up islands, pretty sure. And his family owns like a chain of bookstores. So the setting is up my alley. The quotes, the banter, I'm enjoying all of that. So who knows, this might be another highly rated book for me. We'll see. Still lots of time for things to change.
I met an old man. I said, tell me your story. He took out an old pen and wrote something for me. Then he kept walking on down the road, and I watched him disappear like smoke. And I thought I'd just seen a ghost. Then I looked down at what he wrote. It said, son, when you grow up you'll be fine. I know you've got questions on your mind. Life is gonna happen one way or the other, whether you like it or not. Stop looking for the answers and you'll find what you've got.
Well, I did not expect to be cruising through books so quickly. I finished Authentically Izzy today. Today's Canada Day, so it feels a bit like a holiday. Took some time this morning to read and finished it. Once again, most of the pages that I've marked are references to books, which I realized, or like different book quotes. I realized this book would be a good one to use for on Tiffany's summer book bingo. She has a spot where you're supposed to read a book that's referenced in another book, and this book references a bunch of books, so then I have some options. Like I read a lot of books that reference books, but then I forget. So an author that's mentioned a lot in here, not technically a book, but an author that's mentioned a lot in here is P.G. Wodehouse, and I have like a short story collection of his on my TBR card, so I think I'll pick that up for a book recommended in another book. Overall, I really enjoyed this. I think though, what I realized is part of the reason I really enjoyed this is because for like 95% of the book, we are just talking through or reading about their love story through emails. There are some pages where we like actually are with the characters and it's like a normal novel, but there's not very many overall. And when we are in those pages, I was a little like, it was a little cringy in some spots. I don't enjoy reading about a character's physical attraction in the moment. When they take some time and they are like writing it in an email to someone else, I feel like that's different. So I will probably give this 4 stars, maybe 4.5. I wouldn't mind owning a copy if for nothing else, like for all the good quotes. There was also like not only good quotes where it was quoting other books, but there was this one, there's like a lot of good quotes about using the gifts that God has given you in your life. So the main male character in here was telling a story that his grandfather, I think it was, told. It's about taking what you have within you, what God-given gifts you already possess, and falling in love with them, making them work for your future uniquely. That's how you make your life worth living for yourself and others. There's like a few different quotes in regards to that, because in this book, Izzy is trying to figure out like how she uses her love of books in life, other than just working at a library forever. And I really enjoyed that because I am a bookish person that is kind of asking some of these same questions myself. So I enjoyed the bookish references. I enjoyed the humor. I am curious to continue with the series. So we follow Penelope, which is one of her cousins, and Luke in the next 2 books. Judging from like their personalities in here, I don't think I'll like Penelope's book as much. She's just very outgoing and into theater and acting and stuff. So I don't think that will be as enjoyable for me to read. And then Luke, maybe he's a little bit more mellow, so maybe his will be better. But the library in Edmonton doesn't own the physical copies, and I don't care enough. I just really don't like reading ebooks, so I don't think that'll happen. So we'll see if I can get my hands on a physical copy at some point. But I really did enjoy this one, thanks to a lot of the bookish references. Now, from there, I think I'm gonna continue with my plan that I thought of last time and read The Blonde Identity. This one is less than 300 pages. This one was pretty much exactly 400, so this one should be a quick read, although it is not told in letters, so each page is a little longer, because when you're reading an email, you have that whole section of the from and the to and the date and the subject that takes up a lot of space on each page. So this one is a road trip rom-com, which would also work for Tiffany's book bingo, because there's one that has something to do with vacation or travel, and I feel like a road trip, although possibly for very different reasons than vacation, but it is a road trip in here of some sort, I think. I don't really know. I'm hoping this one's gonna be clean. It's a little bit more iffy, so we will see. This is gonna be the one I start next though. All right, my romance reading is cruising along with The Blonde Identity. I just finished, like I'm just around the 50-page mark. So far, the book is okay. So we're following a girl. At first we think her name is Alex, but then she wakes up in the middle of a Paris street when it's snowing and there's a bunch of guys after her. She meets the guy who is supposed to be like her partner, special operative. They're both special operatives, and he realizes that his partner Alex always said that she was the evil twin, and he's realizing this girl is her twin, but we don't know her name. So we're at page 50. She still has no memory of anything. She thought she saw a video clip of her you know, taking out a bunch of guys. So she thought when she was surrounded by a bunch, maybe the muscle memory would kick in. It didn't. So far, all the humor is related to her like trying to figure out, or her not remembering things. Like if I was in a situation where people thought I was like a spy and had all these moves and things that I don't have, she's doing things that the average person would think of and doing them terribly, which the average person would. So it feels relatable that way. We start out with quite a bit of swearing. This guy who she's hanging out with this guy, he's trying to save her life. She hasn't asked him his name. She often refers to him as Mr. Hot Guy in her head, or sometimes like Mr. whatever it is they're doing at the moment kind of thing. He does a lot of swearing at the beginning, but she doesn't like it, so she makes him stop. So he tries to use other words for it. So that, it starts out in the first few pages with quite a bit, but then it actually slows down quite a bit. Not sure where we're gonna go from here. I have a suspicion on where the book might go. I don't want to say it in case I'm right, because if I am right, I feel like it would kind of spoil the book. So I'm not going to say anything about that. I will just keep reading. I am hoping it can stay clean for the most part. Like I said, there is swearing. It has toned down. So I'm hoping it'll be okay for the rest, but we'll see. Low expectations, but hopeful. At this point, I would say maybe it's like a 3.5, 4-star book. Early on, so I'm curious to see if that changes as I go. I think the rest should be a pretty quick read though.
Out in the pale light, where dreams come undone, and everyone wants to know how long you can run. Well, I don't wanna wait. At the end of the road, just
well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I will say that I am disappointed. I ended up DNFing The Blonde Identity. It went in a place I just didn't care for it to go, and the swearing and stuff was getting annoying, but I could read through that. But then we went somewhere I didn't want to go. And so I DNF'd it. And I guess I'm thankful that I only had to DNF one book in this romance video. A very different genre for me than usual, as I've said many times. Overall, I actually quite enjoyed 2 of them. I DNF'd one. And now I think it's time for me to read something that's not romance. That's a lot for me, for sure. But I'm glad I read 100 Days of Sunlight. Enjoyed that one. I'm glad I read Authentically Izzy. Enjoyed that one. And ultimately, I'm glad I DNF'd the, what's it called? The Blonde Identity. Right, like the Born Identity. I get it. I wasn't really thinking about the title. Actually, this morning I was like, what is the title of this book that I'm reading? Because I couldn't remember, and it wasn't by my book. But 2 out of 3. That's a success story for sure. So it makes sense that, and I don't normally read the same genre 2 books in a row, or definitely not 3 books in a row usually, although I've been on a fantasy kick, so maybe some fantasy books I have. But for the most part, I switch it up between every book. So to read 3 of a genre I don't normally read in a row is a lot. If you guys would like to see another video in the future where I attempt to read one genre for a week or so, what genre would you choose? I've done the hard one now. I've done the one that is, I mean, like, I don't really ever care to read horror, straight up horror, but other than that, I think I read a little bit from all the other genres, most of the other genres. So if you guys have one you'd like to see for a week, let me know. And if you guys have good, clean, no spice romance suggestions, leave them in the comments. Maybe sometime I'll be in the mood for it. Maybe I'll do another video like this in the future, or maybe others that are watching this would just like some good recommendations. So you can leave those in the comments. Thanks for hanging out with me for the last few days.